So, Collin, I want to find out a little bit about you, man. So, tell me a little bit, as much as you can, without violating any NDAs, about where you work, assuming you have any. I've got a bunch, so I always have to be really careful. But, um, where do you work? What do you
Nope.
do? What's your jam with the Ruby stuff?
Sure. Yeah. No NDAs over here yet. So I think I can speak pretty freely.
Cool.
Currently, I work at Go Rails with Chris Oliver, helping him out, work on, like I mentioned earlier, Pay, a lot of the other open source gems that he has, do some work on Jumpstart too. And also every now and then, occasionally publish a little screencast for the Go Rails site. So yeah, I started working there in January of this year. This is actually my second programming job. I started programming or learning to program in November of 2019. I went through a 10-month boot camp program, and then after that ended in October, I believe, of the following year. And I got my first job programming in January of last year. So spent just about a year there before I got the opportunity to go and join Chris as the first, full-time employee of Go Rails other than himself. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
That's fun. So, let me ask you, what attracted you to Ruby as opposed to going to .NET or some of the other big languages?
Funny you should mention .NET, because when I was trying to find a Ruby job, the boot camp I went to, they were trying to shove me to go learn .NET because it's popular down here. And I live in Louisiana, so it's apparently popular down here. But I was like, I'm not doing that. I just spent 10 months, learning Ruby, and I loved Ruby. I don't know what it is. I just really just fell in love with it. It read very nice. Like, I understood it very easily, so it was quite smooth for me to pick it up. And in the boot camp, one of the little lessons that we were reading, it had some links to, some further readings on a subject if you wanted, if you had some free time to dig in some more. One of those was the link to Wise Poignant Guide to Ruby. And so I think I read through that over I don't know, maybe the course of 2 weeks. And that just really solidified my love for Ruby, because I was like, man, this wacky character Y and all the characters in the book, this is great. If this is how the community is, I definitely want to hang out here.
Yeah.
So that pretty much the combination of just really falling in love at first sight, for lack of a better term, and then just reading the Y book and seeing some other people on Twitter that were part of the community, it just felt right to me. So yeah, I wanted to pursue that as my career going forward.
Cool.
So,
yeah, I miss Y. I wish he was still around. He was a lot of fun.
yeah. Have you ever met him? Were you
I never got a chance to meet him. No. Unfortunately, I would have loved to.
Yeah.
Saw him speak over the internet during a live cast once, but he was always just
cool.
a real bright spot in the community.
Sure.
A lot of fun. And that's one of the best Ruby books.
It's fun, right?
Yeah.
It's super cool.
So, and on that subject, Andrew, I don't think we even asked you last time, what drew you to Ruby over all the other really huge languages?
Circumstance and then love. So I was in college when I first discovered Ruby. I was in college. I was writing Java and writing PHP. I was starting to get into VR development, so I was starting to learn Unity and C#. And I took an internship at a graphic design company because I was trying to start my own web design side hustle to earn some cash. And I was like, my designs are trash. They're awful. I was like, so I need to learn design. Took a design class, and that teacher thought I was talented and referred me to a company in town looking for interns, and that was a Rails shop. So as soon as someone in the technology department heard that there was someone in the design pit who knew how to write HTML and they needed something done the developers weren't interested in doing, he walked right up to my desk and said, you know HTML, I have a job for you. And that's they brought me on as a tech intern the following semester, and they were a Rails shop. And that's when I was like, wow, I've been writing Java, I've been writing Python, which to be fair, Python was fine, but Java and PHP, and I was like, maybe being a programmer isn't for me. Like, I love programming. I was like, maybe it's not for me because I don't like doing this. And I found Ruby, and I was like, wow, suddenly I love it again.
Yeah, it is a very nice language for readability, understandability. I like the fact that most times I can make an object and say, gosh, I wish I could do this. If I were to do this, how would I do it? And I put dot, pick some name, and I'm usually right.
Right.
That's
Yeah, I also I agree. Like, especially like for someone new just in programming in general, like that was a huge. I was just like, yeah, it probably exists. If it doesn't, it at least gives me like something good to search, and I'll find the answer to like
Yeah.
what I actually should be using.
Yeah, so it's just a beautiful language for readability.
Out of curiosity, going back to the boot camp, so speaking to chicken versus egg, did you purposefully choose a Ruby-based boot camp, or you just chose a boot camp and it happened to be Ruby?
That's a good question. I actually did pick that boot camp because they taught Ruby, and I didn't know anything about it. When I was considering going to the boot camp, I think I stumbled upon like the DHH like blogging kind of 15 minutes kind of video, right?
Okay,
I
so you
learned
had
that-
some.
I learned that was Ruby on Rails. I didn't
Okay.
know what that meant, you know.
Okay.
But I saw that on the curriculum for the boot camp, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that because that seems right to me. It feels good. So
Okay. Cool.
So, and chat, same question for you. If you're out there and want to share, what drew you to Ruby as a language as opposed to all the other languages that are out there? Because there's one or two other languages besides Ruby. What made you like Ruby? Yeah. So yeah, that's really cool. And I guess Collin, we were hanging out on the Zoom before the show and chatting. Shopify was hiring in my town. Well, that's a good reason. Hey, welcome to the show.
There you go.
And I needed a job.
And
Yep, that'll do it. Your boot camp, yeah. There were a lot of those. I used to go to the bar camp Orlando's when they had them down here, many moons ago. And that's kind of what got me into it. Introduced by a friend, and then said, "Hey, go to this Ruby user group meeting." Saw a little bit of code from there. I was like, "Oh my god," because I was writing Delphi at the time, Turbo Pascal. He said, "Hey, why don't you come to this bar camp thing?" I was just downtown. They kind of close off downtown and set up lots of things in the bars across downtown, lots of talks and stuff. And I was like, wow, that's a really good time and a fun community. So screw Delphi. I'm going this route.
Yeah, and I blame this guy up here as the reason why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Of course, this has been a much better path than I knew Cold Fusion at the time. So I was potentially going to start the company using Cold Fusion.
Oh,
see, I don't even know what Cold Fusion is. So probably
Yeah,
good. Good you didn't choose it.
I know the term, but I don't think it's
Hey,
the
well,
programming language.
it's imagine like PHP where everything is built in the pages themselves. That's
What if I don't
antiquated
want to imagine
PHP.
that?
But, well, I mean, antiquated PHP basically.
Yeah.
But it was a proprietary thing, not far from open source.
Did y'all ever use Ruby Server Edition or whatever? I think that's what it's called. The Enterprise Edition. Ruby Enterprise Edition.
I never
That was the
did, no.
Microsoft thing, right?
I don't even really know what it does.
Or was the Microsoft one was like the Iron Ruby or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Iron
yeah,
Ruby.
that sounds right.
No, I never used any. I've never used any of the flavors other than just plain old Ruby. Well, Ruby on Rails, but that's the framework. The language, I've only just Ruby. I never, like JRuby and Iron Ruby and all that stuff. I was just like, why would I do that to myself? I'm trying to get away from the .NET stuff. Why would I go back there?
Right.
And I had poked around in Java, and like you, I was like, oh no thanks. I don't want to live in that world. So yeah, I was like, why would I want to I mean, Ruby's perfectly fine. Why mess with it? You know.
Yeah. The funny part about why they taught us Java is because they wanted us to learn OOP. And I did not understand OOP until I learned Ruby. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, now I understand OOP. And now I understand all these things that I like have been doing for the past 4 years, just not knowing what I'm doing.
Yeah, and, well, part of that is because Ruby actually is OOP. Everything is an object. Java isn't. You know, that's not the case for Java. So, yeah, it's fun though. I actually, like you said, I enjoy programming in Ruby because you can do things really quickly just through intuition. You know, a lot of other languages, it's, oh gosh, I need to do this. Well, I better go do some research on Google to figure out how you do that kind of thing. I don't even know where to start researching. Ruby, it's like I take a best guess at a method name, and most of the time it's right. You know, which is really cool.
Yeah.
If you like this clip and want to watch another one, you can click right here. Or if you want to watch the full video, you can click here.